All right, ready to break down how to ace those software analyst interviews.
Hmm.
The stuff you sent over is gold, seriously insightful. This deep dive is going to be like your cheat sheet, not just for surviving, but for totally rocking that interview.
Being prepared is key for sure. And it's interesting how much weight they put on knowing the whole software development lifecycle, not just the coding part.
Right, like you need to speak tech
Yeah.
and human. Yeah. Turning those, I wish this app could, dreams into something developers can actually work with.
Exactly. And that's what these sample interview questions try to figure out. Can you bridge that gap? RoleCatcher's got a really interesting set here. Ready to jump in?
Absolutely. Hit me with question one.
Okay, here we go. What experience do you have in the software development lifecycle?
Classic. So it's about
Hmm.
showing you get the whole process, not just saying, yep, done that. What's the role catcher guide say about tackling this one?
It's all about specifics and using the right words, the lingo. Don't just say, I've worked on software projects. Instead, talk about specific methods you've used, agile, waterfall, those sorts of things, and highlight your experience with different phases, like testing or documentation.
So more like, in my last role, we used Agile to develop a CRM system, and I was responsible for gathering user requirements and doing functionality testing.
Now you're talking, you're showing them, what's what. Now imagine they follow up with, can you give me an example of a challenge you faced during development and how you overcame it?
Ooh, getting specific. I have a good story ready to go. Maybe a time you found a bottleneck in the workflow or had to adapt to a last-minute change.
It's cool how RoleCatcher's AI can actually help you tweak this answer for the specific job.
It's true. It looks at the keywords and skills they want based on the job posting and suggests ways to make your answer really click, like having a career coach right there in your pocket. Love that. All right, question two. How do you ensure that software projects are completed on time and within budget? Sounds like a recipe for stress dreams to me.
It's all about showing off those project management skills. The guide really emphasizes proving you can juggle tasks, prioritize, and keep things running smoothly even when things get crazy.
And again, don't just say you're organized, right? Examples. Maybe you use Jira or Asana, the guide mentions those specifically, or have a system for tracking progress. Share it.
Yes. And this is where a tool like Trello can be really useful. It's visual, uses boards and lists, helps organize everything.
Like taking all those thoughts swirling around and putting them into a system everyone can see and follow.
Speaking of systems, the guide mentions clear communication and documentation being super important throughout a project. Why is that so crucial for a software analyst? Well, they're the bridge between the techies and everyone else, right? So clear communication is essential to make sure everybody's on the same page. That's why this next question is all about feedback. How do you incorporate feedback from stakeholders into the software development process?
Ah, yes, the art of balancing everyone's opinions. Turning those, can you just make it pop, requests into actual tasks.
It's more than just collecting feedback, though, right? It's really listening, understanding where everyone's coming from, and finding solutions that work for everybody. The guide even talks about using surveys or online forums to get input from a wider audience.
Smart. Okay, so you've got all this feedback.
Yeah.
How do you actually use it in the development process? I think an interviewer would go there.
Oh, absolutely. They might ask something like, tell me about a time you had to really fight for quality even when deadlines were tight.
Story time. And this is where those aha moments are so valuable. RoleCatcher's AI can actually look at your answer and tell you if it really shows off your skills and experience.
Exactly. It's like having someone edit your interview answers. It can even give you tips on making your answer more concise, more impactful, more tailored to that specific company.
Okay, I'm sold. Ready for the next question?
Yeah, a good story about handling tough situations always makes you stand out. Okay, ready for number 4? This one's, how do you prioritize software development tasks?
The million-dollar question. When everything feels important, what goes first? Sounds like a great place to show off those organizational skills.
Definitely. And your ability to think strategically about the whole development process. The guide talks about a few different prioritization techniques like Moscow and the Eisenhower matrix. Familiar with those?
Yeah, kind of. Maybe a super quick refresh for our listeners who might be wondering too.
Sure thing. So Moscow, that's must have, should have, could have, and won't have. It's about sorting tasks by how important and urgent they are. Then you've got the Eisenhower matrix, which is about urgent versus important, so you can see what needs attention now versus later.
So instead of saying, I prioritize based on deadlines, you could be like, I use a combo of the Moscow method and a visual tool like Trello to manage the workflow, making sure the team is always working on the most critical stuff.
There you go. That shows you're not just winning it, you've got methods. And adding a real example, something like, on this one project, we had to push back a non-critical feature to focus on a major bug that was affecting users. Use the Eisenhower matrix, made the call fast, minimize the impact on the timeline.
Love it. Clear prioritization saving the day. Okay, question 5. How do you ensure software projects meet quality standards? Detail-oriented folks, this one's for you.
It's about having a system for quality assurance. The guide talks about all these different types of testing, unit testing, integration testing, user acceptance testing, and stresses the importance of both automated and manual methods.
And let's not forget about those edge cases. You know, those weird scenarios no one expects, but can totally derail things. The guide mentions using really detailed test cases to cover all the possibilities.
Being able to anticipate those things is key. Imagine the interviewer says, "Tell me about a time you spotted a potential issue that others missed and how you handled it."
Time to shine. They're looking for those save the day by being a meticulous rock star stories. This is another spot where RoleCatcher's AI can really help. You can actually type in your answer, and it'll tell you if you're effectively showing off your attention to detail and problem-solving chops.
Right. And remember, the platform lets you customize your answers for different roles and even different companies. So if a company really emphasizes a specific testing approach, you can make sure your answer is aligned with their way of doing things.
Customization is key, like having a secret weapon for interview prep. Okay, shifting gears a bit. Question 6 is all about staying current. How do you stay up to date with the latest software development trends and technologies?
Gotta show that passion for the field, that commitment to always be learning.
Tech moves fast, right? Got to prove you're not going to get left behind. I read articles, probably doesn't cut it.
No, gotta be more specific. The guide suggests talking about publications you follow, conferences you attend, online learning platforms you use. Think about a recent project or technology that got you really fired up, something that shows you're proactive.
Be the trendsetter, not the follower. Okay, story time again.
Yeah.
Question 7 is, can you describe a time when you had to troubleshoot a complex software issue?
This is your chance to really show off those analytical skills, how you solve problems, and your technical knowledge. Pick a specific example that highlights you in action. Don't be afraid to get a little techie here. Talk about the tools and techniques you used.
It's like being a tech detective. Walk us through your process, the clues, how you crack the case.
Exactly. And don't forget the outcome. Did your solution prevent this from happening again? Did it actually make the software better? Those details show the impact of what you do.
Speaking of impact, question 8 gets into the collaborative side. How do you work with cross-functional teams in a software development project? Seems super relevant for software analysts, since they're often the bridge between different groups.
Totally. It's all about showing you can talk to people from different backgrounds, different levels of expertise, and still get your point across. Active listening, clear communication, finding consensus, those are the key skills here.
It's like being fluent in multiple languages, but instead of French and Spanish, it's developer speak and designer speak.
Exactly. You've got to be able to take feedback from all these different perspectives and make sure everyone feels heard and understood. The guide suggests using real examples of how you've done this successfully.
Like, tell me about a time you had to play mediator between the design team and the developers. That would show those skills in action.
For sure. And don't forget, RoleCatcher's AI can give you feedback on how well your answer gets that across. You can even tailor your answer to match the communication styles and team dynamics of the company you're applying to.
That's amazing. It's like having a personalized interview playbook that adapts to each job. Ready to tackle a few more? All right, back to those interview questions. We've got a few more that really get into the heart of what a software analyst does.
Yeah, these next ones really show who's thinking about the big picture, not just the task right in front of them.
Okay, so question 9. How do you ensure that software projects are scalable and maintainable over time? Sounds like it's all about thinking ahead.
Exactly. It's not enough to build something that works today, right? You got to think about how that software will grow and change as user needs change, as tech evolves.
Like building a house with a good foundation. Yeah. You're not just thinking about who lives there now, but about future renovations and additions.
Love that analogy. The guide talks about understanding things like modularity, separation of concerns, code readability, all those things that make a system easier to maintain and update down the line.
So instead of saying, I write clean code, you might say, I'm all about clean, modular code that follows solid principles to make sure it's maintainable and scalable.
Now you're talking. Even better, give a real-world example. Like, on this project, we used a microservices architecture to break down a big, clunky application into smaller, independent services, which made it way easier to scale and maintain.
Okay, that makes sense. Last but not least, question 10. How do you manage conflicts or disagreements within a software development team? Because let's face it, disagreements happen, right?
All the time, especially when you've got passionate people working together, each with their own strong opinions. This question is about showing you've got the emotional intelligence to handle those situations well.
Being a peacemaker, but also knowing when to stand your ground. What kind of example would really land with an interviewer, you think?
I'd focus on a time you help resolve a conflict between team members, really highlight your listening skills, empathy, finding that common ground.
Like, we had two developers on this project who had totally different ideas about how to solve a technical problem. I brought them together, let them each present their case, we talked pros and cons, and ended up finding a compromise that used the best parts of both ideas.
Perfect. That shows you can handle conflict productively and create a positive environment for the team. And hey, don't forget RoleCatcher's AI can give you feedback on that answer. See how well it really showcases those skills.
It's amazing how useful this AI tool is every step of the way. From figuring out what the job really entails, to tailoring your answers, to even practicing how you'll say it all.
It's true. And it's not just about getting through the interview. It's about setting yourself up for a successful career as a software analyst.
Speaking of which, the career stages section in the RoleCatcher guide is fascinating. They map out the whole progression, from junior software analyst all the way up to principal software analyst.
It's really interesting to see how the responsibilities and the skills you need change as you gain experience.
And how those soft skills, communication, teamwork, problem solving, they only become more important as you move into leadership roles.
So true. And it's great that the guide doesn't just give you job titles. They've got example profiles for each stage, so you can really picture what you'd be doing day to day and what to focus on to move up.
Like a sneak peek into your future career. And speaking of investing in your future, the guide also talks about certifications.
Absolutely. Those can really prove your expertise in certain technologies or methodologies, give you an edge in the job market.
And I love that RoleCatcher actually links you right to resources for different certifications, like the Certified Software Development Professional one, or ones for specific cloud platforms, Azure, Salesforce, all that.
They really thought of everything.
They really did. Well, there you have it, a deep dive into the world of software analyst interviews, packed with insights, tips, and even some secret weapons, thanks to RoleCatcher's AI tools.
We covered a lot of ground today. The biggest takeaways: be prepared, show your passion, and highlight your ability to solve problems and work well with others. Those are the keys to acing those interviews and building a successful career as a software analyst.
Couldn't have said it better. So to all our listeners, whether you're just starting out or looking to level up, remember, keep learning, strive for excellence, and you'll go far in this exciting and always evolving field.
Absolutely. Don't shy away from challenges and never stop asking why.
On that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Hope you found it helpful and feel ready to tackle those interview questions with confidence.